This video you're about to see is about the real history and origins of Anonymous, myself being the original sole founder of. Some government documents and all that kind of stuff. I just want to say before I get to the video that my speech is messed up for a reason. I'm trying really hard to speak, but I've got injuries, many years of injuries the government's done to me, and on top of that, I've been hit with some kind of biological warfare in semi-recent times. Not currently, but the effects are still playing out. So one thing that happened after all other stuff the government's done to me, I've been constantly exposed to a toxic biohazard, and then the government was coming around over and over. On top of that, pumping toxic waste, messing with the pipe infrastructure, and pumping toxic waste through my drains out into my home for like a couple of months. It's not the first time they've done this, but they did this routinely for a few months, and maybe 2 months. I think maybe it's hard. I can't remember how long. Like maybe 1, 2, 3 months somewhere around there. I think it's like 2 months. But I lost all feeling in my body. I've got a little bit of it back. My eyes still don't dilate. The color on my vision, what's left of my vision, is all dull. I can't see color very well. A lot of nausea, fatigue, and all this. And but what's the most frustrating of all is my speech. It's hard to speak. I can't explain it. It's all jumbled up as a consequence of whatever that neurotoxin stuff they put in the drain system they were pumping into my home over and over again. This is actually documented. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of witnesses, complete lawlessness, and so it could be a chemical that's inside my body, or it could have caused some kind of autoimmune thing by being exposed to it, or there could be some infectious agent in with the stuff that they dumped in my home, that I've got like a chronic infection inside my body or something. But it's messing up my speech. It has changed. I used to talk really fast. I had like this pressured fast speech in semi-recent times. I noticed, like, why is my speech like this? And why do I feel so sick in a certain way? I'm always sick from the injuries they've done to me in the past, but this is new. I feel sick in a very highly specific way, and then all my feeling goes all over my body. I lose all feeling over my limbs and like completely nothing. I've only got a little bit, like my left arm right now. I can feel some, just a little bit, but it still goes. So I don't know if I'm still being exposed to it. I don't think so. But regardless, the effects of whatever they did is having its toll, and it's making it really hard to speak. And it means all the more I have to try to get this information out as much as I can. It's very frustrating that I can't speak properly, but I'm trying. So if you notice that in recent videos, including this one, that my speech seems a bit pressured and I keep making mistakes and going back and starting sentences over again, it's because it doesn't come out right. It's to do with that stuff that they dumped in my home. Hopefully it's good enough that you can make sense of it. I am the real, original founder of what is known today as Anonymous, the group known as Anonymous. 95% plus of what you've heard about Anonymous is a deliberate lie and orchestrated lie, that for all kinds of self-gain and criminal degenerate crap done by power structures, specifically governments more than others around the world, but not only governments. I'm going to show, this video is going to just be an example to show what I'm talking about. Now I've had a narrative the whole time that I've never changed. There's a lot of proof behind this, but it is all towards deaf ears. People who don't want to know the truth and have a personal conspiratorial involvement in exploiting the name of Anonymous for some kind of self-gain. I have to deal with this nonsense every day. So look, I'm going to get some documents showing the past and everything to make a clear point here. Now, I've said that a long time. This whole time, I've maintained the same narrative, and I've said this exact point I'm about to say over and over again, ad nauseum, every day, for decades. The idea that Anonymous started on 4chan has absolutely zero evidence to support it. It did not start on 4chan. And isn't it so very suspicious that every party, including mutual enemies, who didn't, like, if one of them said the sky is blue, the other one would just say it's green out of spite. Yet they all seem to agree on this narrative, this exact precise narrative, Anonymous's origins and what it really is, in a very defamatory way, an incoherent way, mind you. They all seem to agree on this narrative. You know, when mutual enemies adamantly and aggressively agree on something they can't prove, and you got to trust them, bro, you know something foul is going on. And it's, you don't know how bad it is. There's only so much I can go in this video. So I've said for a long time that Anonymous was brought to 4chan to make it public with the world, to let people know what we were doing. A lot of people were so inspired by my mission and what I was doing, and they joined in, and they're making the world a better place, making a difference, and they desperately wanted the world to know and and see the things that they were inspired by, the things that they saw, the things that they were involved in. And it was against my wishes that it was brought to 4chan. First, it was brought to some Japanese image board without my knowledge, and they came back and said it was so successful, recruiting against my wishes, mind you. There was a time and a place for that, but they wanted to, with success at that Japanese image board, they wanted to try this new 4chan place. So right near the start of 4chan, like a few days in or something, I think it was even might have even been the third day that after 4chan opened, but they kept begging me for my approval to bring this into 4chan. I eventually knew they were going to do this without me anyway. Long story short, they did bring me into 4chan to interact with them in the early days a few times, and I ended up having to disperse them and send them deeper underground again. Because governments were on our case. We weren't criminals. It was made up of people in the intelligence world, in militaries and intelligence organizations. High-level spies and shit is what we're mostly, not all, but mostly comprised of. There's a few that felt like they were inadequate because they didn't have the computer skills that the rest of us had. But yeah, I told them, you only need, like, there's a certain degree of computer skills, regardless of this situation, that you really ought to know. That it really is, anyone can learn. And you ought to learn those. But outside of that, you don't have to do all the advanced stuff that a lot of us do. Yeah, and you could take like 5 of the original 120 at this point we're talking about, and they could have like an expertise in a certain area that the others are like pretty, not massively lacking, but like way better at this area than the others, and those skills can be really effective. So we don't have to have the same skill set. It's good to have general knowledge and general skills, and they compensate each other usually, but expertise has a place too, right? And if those differences didn't happen, you know, you wouldn't be very adaptable, and you get what I'm saying. So anyway, I've maintained that it did not start on 4chan through much adversity, and I've dealt with a lot of script kids, a lot of wars going on, and now none of them will debate me. None of the journalists, even none of these people who push this narrative will debate me. They run away from me scared, and they talk crap about me in dark corners, and they're scared to death to face me in a live debate where they don't know what's coming, because they know I'm going to expose and humiliate all the lies they've been spreading all these years and profiting from. Every one of them is a grifter. Now, there's some script kiddies, or those who are a little bit better than script kiddies, who got misled, and I've showed them things, and they're like, oh, I suspected this all along. Thanks for confirming and proving what I suspected all along. Those guys, they're all lappers, they're fakes. I knew there was a real Anonymous behind this all along, a real professional force. You know, the Anonymous logo doesn't appear out of nowhere, right? as a professional thing. I've got the long story behind that. Big war was fought over that too, but was always professional and serious the whole time, and political the whole time. All these degenerates on 4chan, they saw it on 4chan and tried to join in because I get to scare people, I get to be a bully, and blah blah blah. Totally misconstruing everything on purpose for self-gain. You got two dramatically different worlds that are incompatible. People who are very professional, and then you got people who are very unprofessional and untalented, degenerate, low-hanging fruit. Right? These things do not match. You don't have like a backward town in the middle of nowhere full of people who are severely inbred, and then suddenly they start making spaceships and stuff. Right? There's something else going on. Okay, so let's get into it. So with the there's a keyword here, emerge. Now I've maintained the whole time that there was an American website. When I was shown this, I didn't know. I wasn't even too familiar with this website myself. I thought it was some second-rate website. But people in America said that it was a big website in America. It didn't seem to have much penetration outside of America out in the day. But it had a blue theme. It was some big news website that was pretty much exclusive to America. And this website had an article in 2006, and this is where the myth began, of not Anonymous originating in 2006. Grok is saying 2006 or 2008, yet Wikipedia and others actually trace it back to the early 4chan in 2003. Everyone's got their different narratives. None of it has any evidence to support it whatsoever. They can just point, like, here's a reference to Anonymous here and there. That's about it, without even context. But there's a keyword here called emerge. Not originate, but emerge. And this article, they said more than the FBI did at the time. Most of this has been scrubbed all off the internet. There's no trace of it today. There's some traces of certain things, but most of it's been deleted. But it looked, from what I could tell, the journalist who wrote this article on this blue-themed news website, they were letting on more than what the FBI put out, and they kind of suggest as much in the article, as if I recall. And this is going back decades ago. Yeah, like 19 years ago, almost decades ago. I think it's 19 years ago. It was like 2006, I think it was. Could have even been 2005, but I'm pretty sure it's 2006. They let on more than the original FBI report said. So they've been speaking to the FBI about it, about what they can talk about, and they got more information than the FBI publicly said, and they put that in the article. And they made it clear that Anonymous did not start at 4chan. They were trying to track this group down, they took it very seriously. And if you look at my story and my narrative of the events of the real Anonymous, you'll see why they took it seriously. I've got a whole story over that in many formats. They could only the article said that they could only, and this backed up what the FBI said too in the day, which will be deleted now. They said that they could only trace Anonymous as far back as 4chan, and they made it crystal clear it did not start on 4chan. That's not its origin point. Definitely, that's not true. That's not the case. But we've tried to triangulate things, and we could find the earliest signs of it in 2003 on 4chan. It goes beyond that, before that, at least a couple of years. It goes, but we can't trace. We can't trace it. The trail goes dead there. We can't find anything. We know that it's got some sizable history before that, but it's just the trail goes dead. I remember those quotes exactly, by the way. The FBI was saying that the trail goes dead at that point. And both the FBI and this article made it crystal clear that 4chan was not the origin point. But despite this, all these news websites back in the day, these especially American big news websites, someone puts out an article that's got a lot of clout and might be something big. They all jump on board and they copy the same article. And as I recall, there was some other like shady kind of mainstream news website. It could have even been like Yahoo or something, or MSNBC, or I don't know, something like that. But one of them posted a corrupted version of that original. They tried to mimic the article and they got the words wrong. Now, the key word they got wrong was emerge. Now, a lot of people don't understand when government, police, and people in positions of power, they use very precise wording, not to the point of legalese, well, they do that as well, but they use precise wording. I've got here in the search here, you can see emerge, right? Now, emerge means something. It's different than originate. These and associated with, like you see, the politicians always talk about, and especially intelligence people, this group is associated with this other group. But did you know that ISIS is associated with the US government? Doesn't mean they're in cahoots. They're at war with each other, right? But they're associated with each other. Without adding context, it could mean anything. So people will deliberately, for good or bad reasons, omit context by using terms like this. But emerge associated with them can mean all different things. But when you're using emerge and originate, they mean very different, precise things. So that you got originate, emerge, and associated with. These are words you hear all the time, and they mean something. These are not just layman terms. They mean something. And if you don't understand what these precise words mean, you don't know what they're saying, and it's easy to misconstrue things. And I think, and I could be wrong here about the intent. I think it was originally just a bunch of dumbasses in the media jumping on a story and getting things wrong with a layman's understanding of words in a rush. And then when one article misconstrued the first article, and this second article said that it started on 4chan where they misunderstood the context of words like emerge, then all the others jumped in. Oh, they found this shadowy group. Everyone starts posting about it, and suddenly the world starts becoming, like in a large scale, aware of Anonymous because of the media lie. And that's where the myth of the 4chan origin began. And I've maintained this for a very long time. A lot of people looked into it. A lot of my self-proclaimed enemies have looked into it and confirmed so much, even though it's getting harder and harder because so much gets censored every day. But it's still, you just look into it, you can prove it. But I've got some examples here. Right here is the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center Bulletin from the Department of Homeland Security. See if I can zoom in here. Right, from the Department of Homeland Security. This is from www.fbiic.gov. Right, let's go back to... I can't even see the percentage. Oh, there we go. I mean, we could just make it bigger. That's fine. We'll make it big enough to read, right? That should do. So, this bulletin is being... We'll just get some... Here we go. Anonymous, suspiciously in quotation marks, because it was still a mystery, right? This very professional, shadowy group, it was very political from the very start, and very professional, is under quotation marks because it's still anomalous. They're still trying to find out, but they found out about some things, right? And I'm not sure. So this was published in 2011, so it's a lot much later. But nonetheless, look at the references it says here, even back then, right? So you got anonymous and associated. Remember, associated with associated hacker groups, meaning could be adversarial. Even you could have these hacker groups, which they often do, mimicking anonymous or getting. They're doing all kinds of internet crimes, and then they run across anonymous, right? And if they don't get taken out by Anonymous, they have a little bit of a talk with the real Anonymous, and maybe they steer away from some of their bad things and use, what their computer skills they've learned for bad reasons, maybe try to steer them in the direction of doing good things instead of bad things, right? But nonetheless, associated with can mean all kinds of things, good or bad, conspiratorial or adversarial, anything. Pay close attention to the keywords. Anonymous and in quotation marks as well, it makes it all more elusive, and associated hacker groups continue to be successful using rudimentary exploits to attack public and private organizations. By the way, the real Anonymous was not a hacker group. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it's a long story. I don't have time to say it here. Don't need to, it's not the point. So let's just get to something important. These actors who make up hacker groups, anonymous in quotation marks, and several likely related offshoots like LulzSec, right? Offshoots, likely, not definitely, likely offshoots, right? An offshoot is a spin-off, right? It's like if I take the Mass Effect game series and I make my own Mass Effect game and I mess up the story and do all kinds of weird, disturbing things that completely ruin the story. Right? That's not main story canon. It's just some side thing that someone unrelated to the people who made that game series made on his own, in his own little corner. Right? That is what an offshoot is. Offshoots are not derivatives. They are a completely separate entity. Right? There is a derivative form of things as well. That's not what this. An offshoot is a completely different group. It is a spin-off. Right? Lulzsec here was never anonymous. They were inspired by Anonymous, and its former members would many times say this. We weren't truly anonymous, but we got to interact and see the real Anonymous to some degree, and we liked what we saw, and we kind of it changed just a bit. And we kind of took on some of their values, or they believe they do. You know, you get your local thug gang, and they see some heroes doing really good stuff and professional stuff. He's like, hey, I like that. I want to be like that. But that thug is not going to really understand much of it, nor is he going to really act in the true spirit of that thing he's emulating. But he's still inspired by something he barely understands. Right? That's Lulzsec for you. A bunch of degenerates who just saw crumbs of something. Anyway, so it was Lulzsec doing the continuing harassment and all this kind of stuff. We didn't do that. We've always been shadow. The real Anonymous has always been very shadowy, for a reason. It's trying to stay out of the spotlight. I was against the whole bringing the 4chan thing to begin with. Okay. Look, members. We're using members of Anonymous, right? We got likely related offshoots like Lulzsec, right? Orbital people who are not directly connected or derivative, but then we've got members of Anonymous routinely, yours truly especially, routinely claim to have an overt political agenda. Right? And exploits can mean a code word too, right? We don't do exploits. But members of Anonymous have routinely claimed to have an overt political agenda from day one. You know, where do you think the Anonymous logo came from, right? You think a bunch of degenerates from 4chan who could barely tie their shoelaces suddenly become professional and political and highly educated in advanced psychological warfare and all kinds of things, not just computer skills? Of course not. The real Anonymous come from the intelligence world. And we're not a rogue. What I started was not a rogue group, but it was a reaction, partly a reaction to all your governments going rogue, which we're seeing all today. Right? There's a coup that happened around 9/11 especially that was instrumental for the direction that we went. And I've got that explain my long story. But political agenda, and have justified a portion of their, instead of exploits, which is a loaded vague, nebulous word, they just say actions, right? A portion of their actions as retaliation, I wouldn't say even retaliation, but strategy, for perceived social injustices, right? From the day one. All to do with justice, the rule of law, a political agenda, right? Not a bunch of anarchist idiots. The extreme opposite of that. And freedom of speech, obviously, right? Two different worlds. They can't coexist. They go against each other. You can't just have one create the other. Like that. It doesn't make sense. None of this narrative that's being pushed makes sense. On any level. Look, here we go. Attacks by remember the word associated, right? What it means, by associated groups such as Lulzsec have essentially been executed entirely for their and their associates' personal amusement, or in their own hacker jargon, for lulz. Completely separate to the real professional Anonymous. Completely separate thing that goes against the real Anonymous. Okay, but this isn't the main point of what I'm showing. I don't want to go too far in. I'm going to go to a certain point, just a little bit below. And Anonymous insists they have no central operational leadership. Well, if you have no leadership, then who is saying this, right? Just random people on 4chan who have no credentials? Just a random anonymous user? It's just baseless claims. I am the sole original founder. I dispersed them at a certain point. For a reason. There's a history that happened. Right? But the idea of leadership, we are all, this, if you act in a true spirit of anonymous, we are all leaders. But there's no rigid leadership hierarchies. Right? If you've got a car, and you've got a group of people, only one of them can drive the car, and you've got to get somewhere to save someone's life. Well, if only one of you guys knows how to drive the car, he drives the car. You don't just draw straws or do equality nonsense. You use common sense. Right? The boss doesn't always drive the car. The boss doesn't always have the best skills for the job. Usually, if there's a person that's generally leading the way, the one who moves first, the one who inspires the others more than the rest, that can happen. Happens all the time. But there's a time where someone else takes over for a specific thing. Right? Understand. Right, which has been a significant hurdle for you. This is key here. This is what I'm saying. Is Anonymous insists they have no central leadership, which is a very convenient claim that removes anyone who resists these self-proclaimed authorities themselves, saying what Anonymous is or is not. They can deny anyone else who is the real Anonymous who can test what they're claiming. Oh, Anonymous has no leaders, therefore who are you to outrank me? Well, who are you to outrank me? Isn't that funny? All the media, all the governments, all the degenerate script kiddies, they all agree on this narrative, but none of them have a shred of evidence or credentials. But somehow they outrank someone who can actually prove who they are because of this bogus nonsense of there is no leadership, there are no founders, blah, 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 right? Something that's created and it just happens, it defies the laws of physics, doesn't need to make sense, wow, woo-woo. But anyway, it's a misconstruing of the disbursement, like splitting them up into sleeper cells, individual sleeper cells, monitoring and doing interventions and stuff, and being independent of each other to prevent them from being hunted down. And there's those who have come forward talking about exactly this, how so many of the original 120 and their recruits have been taken out by illegitimate criminal governments who are stopping those who are holding them to accountable. The real Anonymous is not a criminal espionage kind of group and things like that. We monitor things and intervene to keep the world going and to set up a final solution to the accountability problem. We're the good guys. Anyway, but this idea of being decentralized, dispersing them as independent cells, so that they're even acknowledging here, it has been a significant hurdle for government and so-called law enforcement. Let's put that in quotation marks because we know that they're not enforcing the law; they're enforcing lawlessness. They're a bunch of thugs with illegitimate power, abusing the power to cover up their crimes, and they're going after people who report their crimes as opposed to going after actual criminals. For the most part, not always, but for the most part, right? We all know that, right? But that tactic, their decentralization tactic, right? Anyone who has any knowledge or experience, any understanding of advanced warfare, you understand tactics. You would understand common sense why this disbursement happened. It's not the first one to use these tactics. It's common sense for people who are well versed in these world of things, but it caused a significant hurdle for the government to come after us, basically, and to stop our actions. The reason to remain shadowy, a legitimate reason. Government should be transparent. We don't have government powers. We're just citizens. There's more I could say there, but I better not. With that being said, we assess with high confidence that anonymous and associated, remember the word associated groups will continue to, not exploit, to do deeds, whatever their deeds they're pinning who on. Because it's always, they don't know who's doing what, right? So far, they have not demonstrated any capacity to inflict damage on critical infrastructure. We were protecting critical infrastructure, actually. So it's not demonstrating the capacity does not mean not having the capacity. It means we're actually protecting that infrastructure, while the very people in the government are the ones actually, worst of all, destroying the infrastructure. The infrastructure collapses, the world ends. Instead, choosing to harass and embarrass its target. Well, embarrass maybe, not harass. I mean, you film a corrupt politician in the act of doing his crimes, and he calls it harassment. Doesn't mean it's harassment, right? But anyway, there's a difference between two awards. So we can it's a lot here. You can see. You grab the link. You can see this. It's from. You can look this up yourself. Just run this in HD. You can see the link here. You can read them all. I don't want to go too much. I want to get to the point here. Yeah, look, these attacks have the potential to result in serious harm, only they haven't. We've been protecting from harm. We're the protectors from harm. They're the ones who are doing the harm. But they're even acknowledging it's back then. Also, this assessment does not take into account the possibility of a higher level actor providing Anonymous, LulzSec, or similar group with more advanced capabilities. Yeah, the real Anonymous, the professional Anonymous who has great capabilities that are far beyond any of this nonsense. You know, if you got a bunch, it's like what we're seeing with Antifa today. Oh, they call them not a group; they're just copying their strategies and tactics of Anonymous, really. And they're not, and a lot of them falsely identify with Anonymous. They couldn't be further from the truth. But they are a group. They're a bunch of communists, invaders, blah blah blah, as we all know this today. But when they're doing these organized protests in the street, these people are not normally organized. They have organizers, they have handlers, they have people funneling money and orchestrating and organizing it for them. They have organizers, right? This is not just random and natural, like they try to pin on Anonymous. They're trying to claim that that's what Antifa is. It's just a movement. It's a decentralized movement. Yeah, where have we heard that before, right? Learn from this bullshit claims that they're saying regarding Antifa as a cop-out, and relate that to a true version of that when it comes to Anonymous, who are the actual good guys, Antifa the bad guys. But this is the enemies of Anonymous copying the tactics of Anonymous. Right? It's not the first time. So here's what I wanted to show, and we'll see, look, the word emerge. Anonymous emerged in 2003. Look, this is this FBIIC.gov. Grok says 2006 or 2008, depending on the day. It says Anonymous originated on 4chan in 2006 or 2008. Wikipedia says 2003, which surprisingly, at least in this regard, while both of them are just very far from the truth, Wikipedia turns out to actually be closer to the truth, even though they're both far away. But the wording here, Anonymous emerged in 2003 on the internet board message board web forum 4chan. Now, as a collective group of individuals, collective is also a key word. It's a vague association. It's basically they don't know. But whoever or whatever is the real Anonymous was involved in their public appearance in 2003 on 4chan, and that much is true. That much is true, and it was against my wishes. They kept hounding me for 2 weeks, begging for my approval to do it, and they're going to do it anyway. So I had to go along with the same thing with other things as well, a few other things. All right, and I noticed this is key. This is key here. As the group name implies, autonomy, and carry out random acts across the web for their collective amusement. This is like, it almost sounds like it's AI driven here, right? Well, these random acts, this is a very precise term because this comes from what I've said all along for many years. Anonymous actually started as a random act of kindness movement. It's funny how they use the term random acts there because it doesn't really, the grammar here doesn't really match. It's like they're trying to mesh multiple things together that they don't understand. But random acts comes from the random act of kindness movement. It's how it really started. And then the collective amusement, that was the 4chan degenerates. Right? the random act of kindness movement, the vigilantism, all the professional spy world stuff, all this stuff was brought to 4chan to share it with the world, right? That's what this represents. This bit here is the 4chan LARPers, and the two worlds get mishmashed and confused for each other, and foolish journalists start, telling porkies. Right, and it says, since then, Anonymous has conducted a number, not before, but since then, number of malicious, or it's not Anonymous that has conducted them, the 4chan LARPers. The script kidders with a long history of immorality and no expertise in any area, very low intelligence, very low skill sets, etc. Right? Common sense, like there's not much of that left in the world, but add 2 and 2 together, understand. It should be clear as day. In the earlier years, Anonymous acts seemed to be somewhat random. Seemed, because they weren't random, especially the political ones. And look, it wasn't until 2008 that Anonymous became associated with hacktivist activities. And while the term hacktivist did have a historical legitimate meaning, it was always mostly used for illegitimate things. There was two worlds there colliding with that term anyway. But this term was not used until much later by the real Anonymous. And the 4chan degenerates never had no political interest, but suddenly all these it's political, even though it has been the whole time. But these narrative spinners have just changed the narrative again, and guess what? All the communists and Antifa format versions of Antifa, an influx of all these degenerates come in 2008 because of Project Technology. There was government and corporate sponsored involvement in the war against Scientology, which I actually stopped. I have my own criticisms of Scientology, but I also have there's some good things they historically did anyway, even though they themselves screwed me over in real bad way. That's another story for another day. But no, I'm not, and I've never been a Scientologist. But the story is not what people are saying it is. But nonetheless, that war against Scientology had sponsorship, and Anonymous had an influx of degenerates that joined in. That was all just like these Antifa rights. It was all orchestrated, it was all paid for, it was all pushed, blah blah blah. But this idea of hacktivist anarchists with burning bottles was never a thing until then. Until that their government and corporate sponsored conspiracy happened. It was very political, very professional. It was not random acts of nonsense, of degeneracy. No, it was very professional. Like you go try to look up the origin of the symbol. I was involved in making it. It wasn't not just one man. It was the first symbol was the suit, which was made by a third party. It wasn't really a member. It was like someone who was like a friend or family member or something. I think it was a friend of the original group, and he was so inspired by it, but not being a member of it, he's considering wanting to get involved. And as part of that consideration, he was so inspired by what he saw. The great things were people doing without a sense of any credit or anything. All the risks and dangers involved, all the sacrifices involved, and not a shred of credit. No one would ever know that the world lives another day because of someone who no one knows even existed. Might have even died to keep the world going along another day, and no one ever knew. That's that world. And that person drew the suit. Now, there's a good chance that the suit might have been based on something else, and because I don't know the history of art, I've heard that they could have moved something around of some other drawing. But anyway, regardless, this third party did the suit, and we all liked the suit. And we started using this in internet forums and places that we will post. And some of us would use, we would change one of the pixels, would have like a slightly different transparency or color or something. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us would do that to identify each other because we would all use the same suit as an avatar, and we would know also that if there are any imposters in our presence by examining the avatar for any pixel differences that wouldn't be visible in naked eye. But it started with the suit, and then we later ended up building the whole logo. I've got a documentary I made on the Anonymous logo. It used to be the most mirrored Anonymous video in history to this day. Most copies, but not all, have been removed in censorship in a giant war of false reports and all kinds of abuse and harassment. But my version of events, which was very different than the mainstream narrative, got proven true, and that war was won. About what Anonymous really means and where its symbol came from. You can look it up under names like a popular mirror that was renamed was Anonymous: The True Meaning. That's one of the, obviously anyone who uploaded that would not have been the original upload. That was a renaming of the original. It used to be the original was Anonymous Symbolism, and I think I made that in 2015. That video, it goes for about half an hour. Anyway, let's continue. There's a lot here. That was the relevant part here. I wanted to refer to the word emerge. That's the main part here. Although there's a lot of other valuable information here. Understand what the word emerge means. It does not mean began, started, originated. It means it pinged on the radar. It predates that point, most likely by a long way. But it appeared publicly at that point, after existing secretly before then, and then went underground back in secrecy again. Right? Hence the decentralization was the going back underground. Sent them all on missions, some going many years, and all kinds of things going on. But there's a lot here. You could see a lot of misconstruing of things, but it's unclassified stuff. And it's a big giant maze of trying to misconstruing and trying to get retrieve truth out of it. But there's enough here to confirm what I'm saying. All right, we'll go to another page. Here's from Police One. So this is like a police website for police to look at to get info on and stuff like that. So police use very clear terminologies in the same way as the government, the FBI, etc. do. Right? When they use words like emerge, it means something, and we can see it being used here too. Anonymous emerged in 2003. They're kind of like repeating the same words over and over, but nonetheless, they're using the word emerge here in a political way, in a like a professional way. It means something different than layman terms. It appeared. It pinged on the radar. It was already a well-oiled machine before that, right? There's so much more. I'll probably skip. Was it amorph? It's not on this one. It's another one. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Here you can see publicintelligence.net. There was something here I wanted to show too. I mean, there's the term emerges being used here. Anonymous emerged in 2003. 4chan, same thing, right? Right. All using the term emerge. Right. Most of the history has been deleted because it was different than even these narratives, and the government keeps reinventing narratives and just deleting history over and over. But even here, which was we'll find out in a sec when this was made, but it says the word emerge. The same thing. You can look at these links on the video. You can pause the video and see them. Let's see, when was this? I can't tell when this was. You can look this up and find it yourself. It should be down the bottom actually. I might say it down the bottom. But this is some unclassified material, but it doesn't say. Somewhere it will say somewhere. My eyes are not good anymore. Been kidnapped and tortured by the government. That's why. Got all kinds of injuries, including progressive loss of sight. Let's go next one. Here's some FBI Vault records. Yeah, okay, I remember this one. I wanted to show you too. So this is an example of people who don't have anything to do with Anonymous, but they're involved in those low-level degeneracy. And the government's trying to get info on the real Anonymous by grabbing these people, roughing them up, interrogating them and stuff. And they're like, oh, I saw an IRC channel once or something for 5 minutes. No one posted in there. Then I left, and that's probably as close as they got to the real Anonymous. And they don't even know if any of the real members of Anonymous were in that IRC. But Yeah, they got involved in this degenerate 4chan stuff. There's some loose association with Anonymous, and then they get grilled, and they try to. It just shows that the FBI and the government don't know enough. This was a known unknown, and they took it as a very serious threat. So they would try to get intel by roughing people up who are doing petty crimes that are not even anything to do with Anonymous. So we'll just see if I can give you some of the narrative here. Make the screen a bit bigger. Give me a sec, I'll find. I think this is the one. There's a lot omitted here, but here we go. On January 18, 2008, a denial of service attack was launched against several Church Scientology websites. The attack brought down the entire site, blah, 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 blah. A group named Anonymous has claimed responsibility. No, people claiming to be anonymous claimed responsibility, and they weren't anonymous, for the attack, and has posted several videos discussing the attack and vowing to continue. Not the real Anonymous, just a bunch of degenerate LARPers, often government corporate sponsored. Let's get just the details of the matter. We'll go back to the story down here somewhere. We'll find it. Reference telephone call, grand jury subpoena, FBI Los Angeles. It was determined that subpoena, blah, blah. The story will be down here somewhere. Here we go. At Iowa State University, was interviewed via telephone from his place of employment. After being advised of the identity of the interviewing agent and the nature of the interview, whoever it is provided the following information. This person assisted in providing documents to the FBI pursuant to a subpoena. With regard to those documents, that person explained that the IP address, blah, 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 goes back to a residence hall at Iowa State University. The connection could be either wireless or through a wall jack. The computer assigned to the IP address is just talking about the location. I know it is. This person knows it is blah blah blah's computer because when blah 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 first connected the Iowa State computer network, he needed to register his computer using a MAC address. Blah blah. What am I saying? Hang on. Synopsis details. Here we go. There was just details just showing there was a DDoS attack. Like it's DDoS attacks are just spamming. They're not even hacking, and in a rare hypothetical extreme situation, maybe there might be a useful one, but I've never seen the need for one to this date. It's just spamming, and it's just censorship. It's just degeneracy. I'm not saying there isn't a hypothetical scenario where it might be valid, because there might be a hypothetical scenario you have to go through someone's bin and eat dog poop, right? Really bizarre scenario, but weird things can happen, although they typically don't. But generally, no, not a good thing. This person was a student at Drexel University. The address was it? Sorry, it's going to be almost saying on. Just don't all it's not going as a story. Coordinated resources been doing FBI. Email was sent. I think we're here. He thereafter stated the following. He completed 2 years at the university majoring mechanical engineering. The last 9 months at Drexel, his roommate was blah blah blah, stated blah blah blah, was monitoring and information technology but was not sure of the minor. Blah blah blah, heard about the internet group Anonymous, right? Here we go. Heard about the group internet group Anonymous through blah blah blah. Some community, I'm guessing. Could be IC or something. According to whoever person is, and approximately 20 other individuals at Drexel were upset about a video featuring a movie actor Tom Cruise. The group, which blah blah this person knew no other names of, protested at the Church of Scientology located in Philadelphia. The group met at City Hall, then went to the protest. So these people, you can see they don't know anything. They have a very, very loose association. They saw one thing once and they joined in. That's about it. This person stated that he was not a member of the group Anonymous, nor did he attend the protests, or this one didn't even attend. But they did DDoS attacks, which is a crime and he should have been punished for it. but that's not the point of me reading this. It's just to show that, like, these are the people they're trying to pin on Anonymous, and like, dude, I heard the name once. That's about it, right? The only other individual, blah blah blah, name believes may be a member of Anonymous is blah blah blah. Spelling provided by blah blah blah. According to Censored, were close friends and talked often. Censored resided next door to Censored and Censored at Drexel. They're trying to find out who knows anyone associated with Anonymous, and it always leads to dead ends. And I once met a guy who met a guy who met a guy who heard someone say something one time, and it's just all hearsay. Advising January this year, various websites looking for programs to initiate DDoS attacks. He provided the following sites: 4chan. Was able to locate a program, probably lower, but Iron Cannon did not know the name of it. Looking for a DDoS program, but doesn't even know that level about Iron Cannon. Censored stated he saw the program and described a nifty screen that came up where you would just input the target IP address. Yep, it's labeled Iron Cannon, which I can't even say properly now because of the brain damage I received. My speech is all messed up. And several other pieces of information, and it would send packets to the site. It's a spammer, yeah. According to Censored, for approximately a week straight, and them in the group Anonymous, according to hearsay by someone, for approximately a week straight in late January or early February, up one person and the group Anonymous, right? The group Anonymous did not do this. According to baseless hearsay, a guy said. Someone said that a group Anonymous sent 2 large DDoS attacks and several smaller attacks against the COS. Some Censored knows Censored to own a MacBook and a Dell desktop. Censored uses both computers in a room. The DDoS, there's too much here to read. The nifty Windows. You're calling low orbit Iron Cannon and basic things like this as nifty? Like, you're a novice when it comes to computers. You're not like a professional computer techno wizard, right? This is just like low level script kiddie stuff who is only just been doing this for 2 days. Hey, there's some cool stuff going on. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to feel a sense of power by spamming people and knocking the website temporarily off the internet. It's just low level people, degenerates, trying to feel a sense of power by walking all over other people with a simple button press. That's all it is. Nothing to do with Anonymous. But hey, I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who said something. And he heard that someone might have said something one day. And that's all they have to go on. Stated he was not. Yes, this guy stated he was not involved in any of the DOS attacks, and he knows very little about computers, like the majority of them. He further stated Censored did not use his censored computer on occasion to complete and print schoolwork. Stated that he lived his current residence. So this is just another dead end, right? But this person was asked if he was familiar with the internet group called Anonymous. The person said he has visited some of the same websites as the group's membership. It's like 4chan, right? Oh, an Anonymous member went to 4chan one time. Hey, another time he went to Google News. I heard that a guy, an Anonymous, visited Facebook once, like for 5 minutes. So because you're a member of Facebook, it means you have some loose association with Anonymous, and you got like FBI agents grilling you, trying to find out if you know anything. The fact that they're combing over such information in the blind, like, interpret this. They don't have much to go on. They don't know, but they're desperate to find out who is who. And it's all just dead ends. Because they don't know. But they know enough much that it's a very serious threat to them. Not a threat of crime, but a threat of accountability. They know they're being watched. They know they're being documented and monitored. They don't know who's doing it. And they know that their own intelligence communities have been... they have eyes among them, watching, documenting, and on the rare occasion intervening to stop their shenanigans. Look, he hasn't even been on the message board for at least 5 months. He stated that the name of the board is random /B. I just went to /B a couple of times, and he's being grilled by the FBI, who was so desperate for info, right? He was asked about his computer skills. He stated that he's a Microsoft Windows guy, and specifically Windows Vista. Not a Windows expert, but he owns a computer with it, and he at least knows the operating system. And who would ever use Vista? Damn. He stated that he hates the Linux operating system. So do I. Stated that, or not so much anymore. Stated that he would often answer technical questions on the message board. Stated that his postings on the message board were all anonymous because everyone goes under the label of anonymous to protect your identity there. No association with the anonymous group, right? If I open a fish and chip shop and I call it Bob's Tires, it doesn't mean I'm selling tires. It's the name. A noun versus an adjective, right? Also viewed the website 7chan. I don't want to spend too much on you. He was asked if he communicated with any of the group's members offline, because that's where a lot of things happen, right? Meaning not on the 4chan website. He stated he did log into the group's IRC channel. I mean, what group? Anonymous does not have an official IRC channel. In fact, I made an IRC, encrypted IRC thing that would run through Tor. It's all been false flagged by as a malware to censor it. It's completely false flagged. It's provably false flagged, and I don't think I even have any copies of it anyway. Your operating system will go nuts trying to delete it because people started using it and they saw it as a threat. Anyway, stated there was about 7 computers in the house. But look in the link here. It's from the FBI Vault. Just look. The whole point of this is showing the desperation of the FBI here, that you can tell that they don't have much of anything to go on, but there is something that's making them shit their pants. They're scared. They know that they're being watched. It's like they're not acting as the good guys here. Their dirty laundry is being watched and documented by someone, a secret shadowy group, and they're trying to take them out and delete the evidence. And look at the FBI's reputation since you know the shenanigans have all been proven. And they want you to think that that's all changed now, right? Okay, where are all the FBI agents involved in these home invasions and mass murders of innocent people? Where are they not receiving the death penalty? Or why are they not arrested en masse? No, not a single one. But no, I hope you see the point of this was try to show the behavior coming from the FBI and how they grill people because they don't know. But they know enough to know that it's a very scary unknown. And it's a very professional unknown. This is not simply a bunch of degenerate script kiddies. They're trying to find, they're combing over these script kiddies to find breadcrumbs they can lead beyond and before 2003. Well, it's not so much necessary these days because I've gone public with everything that's relevant. It's all provable. I've had an ongoing monetary wager. No one takes me up anymore. All these LARPers, they run from me. I had a monetary wager and everything, and they refuse. They don't even turn up to their own. Let's expose Terran as a fraud and a liar and a fake, and most of the time they don't even show up. And start threatening people orbital to me to get to me to try to make me shut up. Here's foreignpolicy.com. Who was that masked man? A mixture of righteous indignation and outrageous prankery. The Hacker Collective. All these buzzwords of all these nebulous buzzwords. They obviously don't know anything. But Anonymous has emerged as a surprisingly potent actor in global politics. It was to begin with, but it has been revealed that they were like this all along. It was made up of people from the intelligence world. Like spies and stuff, higher level spies and experts, James Bond, MacGyvers and stuff like this. Not one or two of them, but started out with 120 of them. And those 120 were sent on missions and to go independent as sleeper cells, to go recruit, to infiltrate corporations and governments, to document what they do, all the crimes that they do, to intervene, to save the victims where necessary, and basically do this underground, to go underground and do this covertly, so that if one of you get caught, the others don't. There's no connections between each other. This is common sense. But there's no espionage, there's no crime involved in this. This is acting in good faith, trying to save the world. Right? But we see here, it's just a bunch of script kiddies, right? Meanwhile, at European Parliament, whatever you want to call it, just a bunch of script kiddies, right? But Anonymous has been denounced by NATO, targeted by the FBI, and subjected to more than dozens of frenzied editorials full of mistakes, hence frenzied. Right? They have very little real information to go on. And almost all of it is just hearsay by people who have the lowest credentials imaginable. Yet this narrative is consistently and aggressively enforced and maintained from every side. Very conveniently. They can't back any of it up. It all leads to, I heard a guy say that he heard a guy say that he heard a guy say. Meanwhile, look what my world looks like. This is what my life looks like. I don't exist. I'm a liar, I'm crazy, or I just don't exist, and shut up, you saw nothing. Right. These are all, should be self-explanatory. Okay. As information filtered out about the arrest of senior members of the group Anonymous and LulzSec, unlikely, just script kiddies, a portrait of, you want to show any proof that they're senior members of the group Anonymous? No. You can't, not a shred of evidence. Just some degenerate on 4chan who saw postings of Anonymous and when they were like in their single digits. You look at the timeline of these people claiming to be, mind you, the narrative, there's no leaders, there's no founders, yet all these people they prop up as leaders and founders that go against their own narrative. If you look at how old they are at the time of its known appearance into public as an already professional force to be reckoned with, they were either not even born or they were like 3 years old or something. None of any of this adds up. It's not even meant to be backed up. It's just repeat the narrative. Just keep repeating the mantras and just go along with it. Don't ask questions, just keep repeating until people just accept it. And just keep censoring history. There's only an endless present. But there's another reason why I wanted to show this one. I can't remember the threat post, but that's right, we've gone too long already. Let's just get the next one. So as you can see here, emerge or originate, two different meanings. The main difference is that originate means to be the source or beginning of something, while emerge means to come out of something into view. Right? Let's go define, emerge, define, just to make it clear. To move out or away from something and become visible, to become apparent and prominent. Right? Something that came out of the shadows after existing for a long enough time to be very professional and organized, to the point where it was brought to 4chan as a choice of a place where they wanted the world to see the inspiring things that were being done. They wanted the world to see this and be inspired by this. They wanted the world to see what they've seen because they were so inspired by it. But just repeat the narrative. That doesn't make sense, right? Just keep repeating it like an NPC. And we've got here was I said before about splinter groups versus spin-off, right? Splinter group versus spin-off. A splinter group is a faction that breaks off from a larger organization due to a disagreement, right? And when you do have a splinter group, there may be some distant original thing they shared in common, and one might go rogue, and they might just turn evil, just adopt some messed up ideology or something, and they end up resembling nothing of the original thing that they started off as, or the other group that they're maybe mortal enemies of each other, right? Which actually happens often throughout history. But a splinter group does not mean that they even share the same values or principles as whatever they splintered off from. Well, a spin-off is a new, separate entity created by a parent company, often retaining ties to the original, like a separate new entity, right? Like, as I say, I can make a spin-off from some game series. I can make a Super Mario game or a Mass Effect game, as I said before. It doesn't mean that has anything to do with it. Doesn't mean that if I go make a crappy Mass Effect game in a few hours, a crappy Flash game or something, that doesn't mean that it's anyone would or should recognize this as the canon story of Mass Effect, or that I even work at EA or whoever owns Mass Effect now, or BioWare, or whatever you want to call it, right? I'm just an independent party doing my own thing. Just because I make some crappy Mass Effect game does not mean that I'm one of them. In the same way as people do all this nonsense that just goes against the spirit and principles of Anonymous, and then they just claim to be anonymous because they put on a Guy Fawkes mask. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're anonymous. Common sense. No one who pushes this mainstream narrative of Anonymous has a shred of evidence to this day. You think there'd be a little bit of and if there was no evidence, if they were honest about it, don't you think they would frequently, repeatedly admit that? No, they repeat it aggressively, as though it's fact. You can't question it. Sounds like something else we're not allowed to question. Certain historical narratives we're not allowed to question by obvious dishonest parties. It's all on the same lines. Not only does it not sound believable, it sounds clearly conspiratorial and dishonest when you aggressively push a narrative, refuse to produce a single shred of evidence, base it entirely off hearsay, and you bully everyone who says otherwise. You're not allowed to question it, really. And where are all my adversaries? Where are all the documented battles I've done exposing them all as frauds? All their narratives, nothing holds up. They're just, every one of them, they're just degenerate criminals, a long criminal history of fraud, lying, exploitation, everything. Look at even the history. Like, history was rewritten. This is why I want to show this. Oh, damn, we've been over an hour already. So here is the Anonymous Hacker Group page. It's probably renamed from Anonymous to Hacker Group at some stage, but anyway. It only goes all the way back to 2008. There was a history before this. It's all been deleted, like most things. It's all been deleted. There's a reason why. Everything before this point has been deleted, because if we go to the next one, Project Trinology, where there was this massive hijack attempt to hijack Anonymous and try and outsiting forces trying to pretend to be Anonymous and take over and reinvent it with a lot of money and funding behind it and everything. You'll see shortly before, just days before, in 2008, January 24 versus February 12, just a couple of weeks. All right. And the first edit we see, everything before that's been deleted, the first edit is just a redirect page from Project Trinology. Like, the earlier page of Project Trinology references Anonymous that has existed and documented for a long time beforehand. The entire history of Anonymous is then deleted, and this one predates Anonymous, and Anonymous only begins being seen on Wikipedia again as beginning with a reference to something that... the timeline's going backward or forward here. Which direction are we going in time? Right. And if we go to... let's go to the original. In fact, I've got some original ones here anyway, so it doesn't matter. Let's go. So we'll go to, like, here's Project Trinology. I think this might be the first edit that the last one we've got. The oldest one, because everything before this was deleted. You see, Project Trinology is a name given to an E-bombs world eBaum's World is an entertainment website owned by Literally Media. The site was founded in 2001 and features a comedy content such as memes. Really, so eBaum's World, a comedy website, is their response, according to the early edits. Project Trilogy was because of eBaum's World. It's to do with eBaum's World and associated organizations. Decentralized, anonymous, digital, in quotation marks, right? These quotation marks matter. Digital assault on the controversial Church of Scientology. It's crediting eBaum's World to this. It doesn't even say 4chan there. It's saying that eBaum's World, another entertainment website, did this. My, the narrative changed. And we go to the earliest anonymous reference on Wikipedia. Of course, the history has been deleted up to this point. This is the second oldest one, because the first one, if we go to it, look, if we go to the first one, it's just a look. Hang on, it should just redirect. Oh, just where's the redirect? Am I? No, sorry, wrong one. Anonymous. Here we go. Look, this is the first page of Anonymous. It's just a redirect, right? So the real first page is this one, which was shortly after that, very shortly after that. Now we've reinvented Anonymous, and this is a new narrative according to 2008, after they tried to hijack Anonymous and reinvent it and for their own purposes, and then denounce any leaders so that no one can challenge their narrative, right? Anonymous has no leaders, therefore you can't challenge our leadership narrative. It sounds like they did the same thing with the Bible, right? They hijacked the Bible, reinvent Jesus, and then suddenly they're the authority, and there is no one who can contest that. Whoops, it's just rigged, right? The self-styled Anonymous uses a mass noun, are the multitude of visitors to various internet forums. Not just 4chan now, not just eBaum's World, just anyone. You ever go to an internet forum, you're a member of Anonymous, apparently. Their name comes from the practice of an anonymous posting. No, it doesn't. That is contributing without identifying themselves. The default name attribute is anonymous on sites like 4chan and other image boards derived from Futaba channel. Is a Japanese image board. Who knows? That might even be the place that they went to before 4chan. I don't know what it is. I don't know the name of it, but just that's what they told me in the day, and I was against it. And then they insisted on going to bring it to 4chan. All I know is that it was a Japanese image board. Users other than administrators who readily identify themselves are often ridiculed for breaching this practice. So, yeah, not even 4chan at this point. It's just saying just internet forums everywhere. It's such a thing just happens to be highly political, highly professional, highly organized from day one, before it's even seen in these internet forums. I said all along that like the use of the suit, we would use this when we went to internet forums as an avatar, sometimes with a pixel different, so we could identify each other and rat out imposters. Not all of us would do that, but some of us did, and it was really helpful for knowing when someone's trying to infiltrate and LARPers and do all kinds of bad stuff to get to interfere with what we were doing. And yeah, this narrative is complete nonsense. Not everyone who went to an internet forum in 2003 or 4 or 5 was an official member of Anonymous with MacGyver James Bond level computer skills. I'm sorry, but that's not how the real world works. But the narratives don't make sense. They're not meant to. I could go on a lot more than this. I've got a lot more where this come from. This is just, I just want to show some history here. That's all. That's the whole purpose of the video. Here you can see in the latest reference, you still see the same thing. The group re-emerged. Okay, there's no, I'm looking for the word emerge, but there's no first emerge. Instead of emerge, they've replaced it with originated. This used to be emerged. They've changed it to originated. And now this contests with this. It's in conflict. This originated is in conflict with this re-emerged. It emerged and then re-emerged. That works. It's a shadowy group that appeared here, went underground, then appeared there, went underground, then appeared over there, went underground. That makes sense. But you can't originate and then re-emerge. You have to emerge first to re-emerge. Originate or emerge. Right? It's one or the other. They've just swapped out the word. Emerge with originate. You go ask Grok, it's not even 2003, it says 2006 or 2008, depending on where you ask. Grokopedia is saying, was it 2006? And I think Grok itself on X is saying 2008. And everyone's saying these things, and no one has a shred of proof. And they aggressively back up their claim, they aggressively bully anyone who disagrees with them. Look at this C, which means circa, right? Which means roundabouts, meaning they don't know. Roundabout formation, roundabouts 2003. They don't know. It means I don't know, but it's estimation of somewhere around 2003. Well, it actually happened in, or a lot of, you could probably say 2000 even, or maybe 999, but it was the most of the work involved was really in 2001 actually. And look what happens if you go look up anonymous hacker group, Wikipedia, in Wayback Machine. We all know, we're all the way over here at 2003, right? 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, all the way to 2020, gone. Nothing. 2021, oh, we suddenly exist. What happened? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. I don't exist. The narratives are the truth. And if you don't just go along with what doesn't make sense, a white van will arrive soon. Well, I don't live in that world. I must be in a completely different universe, a different world, where things actually make sense. And if you're in that other world, you want to come over here. There's a portal that you can take you from there to here. The portal is inside your head. It's about being legitimate, being honest, testing all things, putting an effort in. Don't just go along with nonsense you hear. Think. Use your free will, use your intellectual capacity to reason and make sense of things while you still can. Anyone who I'll just finish with this. Anyone who wants to deny my claim as a founder of Anonymous, you think you can prove me wrong? Like many others before you, face me in live debate, with or without a monetary wager. I have an ongoing $1,000 debate, but you can do it without that if you want. I've done this over and over again. I have a long documented history of this. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not sorry. But saying that a guy once said that he met a guy who met a guy that might have actually said something one day is not good enough. Do you know what's good enough? When you have thousands of hours of footage of all that censorship, conspiracies, cover-ups, assassination attempts, when you have the government here on surveillance camera, and these are from actual recordings, right, transcripted recordings, referring to me as a real-life Neo. If I'm a liar and a fraud, I'm just a nobody who's just making stuff up to get attention or money. Well, where's my history of getting money for a start? I've never received a single cent. I've only suffered. I've lost everything as a consequence, and I've maintained the narrative, same narrative the whole time. And why is this how the government treats me? They seem to be afraid of me and not these other big tough internet hacker gods, right? No one's afraid of them. They're the ones that get their asses kicked and grilled trying to find intel on someone they might have met one day without even realizing. I heard you could have been in the 20 meters proximity of someone in some building on some date 30 years ago. Do you recall that date? With a gun to your head. Look at these quotes. Someone has to pay for this. No one knows he exists. I wonder why no one knows he exists. He's only one on us. That's debatable. He needs to die bad. We'll fix him, I promise. I'll pass the order. How cliche is that? These recordings you can see and a lot more. When I've got recordings like this, I don't need to show you government documents that haven't been censored that I've found after thousands of hours of looking, and as soon as I show them they get deleted anyway, right? I don't even need to do that. I mean, when I've got footage like this, that's more than everyone else has combined. I think that's more solid than anything anyone else can offer. It's good enough. But I've got a lot more. Where that came from. If anyone wants to know the truth is, you probably would know by now. And that's the problem right there. People don't want the truth. You act in my name. You pin all your dirty laundry on me. You take credit for all the good things that I do. Do you even have your own identity anymore? Do you even understand what an identity is? Enough is enough. I'm censored everywhere. I mean, I could probably show. No, just go to my Twitter. You'll see Terran_01. If it's still there when you watch this, you can see. I'm censored massively. I just put up a video of Grok abusing and gaslighting me, despite giving it accuses me, it was threatening me and accusing me of making threats and harassing myself. It's ridiculous. You go see it for yourself. In fact, I have a video prepared, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, called 3.14. A 6-hour documentary going over just some things in recent years I've had to put up with, and all the survival of hundreds of assassination and framing attempts and everything. And I still have no criminal record to this day. You want to look into the facts and research this, do it legit. Because I don't think that anyone who did research into the origins of Anonymous and did not find the truth fairly fast, did not come across me, I don't think you're doing research at all. I think you're probably just looking for to get your foot into the door of being able to put on the mask and go around bullying people to feel better about your insecurities and smallness instead of actually doing big things. The mask, I wasn't involved in the usage of the mask. I was heavily against it at first, and I came to have to use it for various persons and put up with it. But if I have to wear the mask of a villain in order to try to save the world and protect the victims, I don't care about my identity. I don't wear a mask as an identity. I wear a mask to remove my identity so that you can see my true self, which is my moral compass, my motives, my intentions, my mission, why I do what I do. That's the true me. I put on a mask to reveal my true identity, whereas they put on a mask to cover up their true identity and replace it with a false identity. And with that, I'm off.
Just trust me. You know this anonymous group? It's these guys that do all the computer shit. They wear the Guy Fawkes masks, that funny mask, the guy with the mustache. Those guys don't give a shit about CAS. Those guys give a shit about Vladimir Putin and Barack Obama and stuff like that. They don't care about Kelly Denham and her run-ins with CAS. So if you're going to tell me that some dude from this anonymous group sent you the documents, it'd be hard to believe.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now.
Is everything all right, sir?
The meeting is over. Retreat to your exits. Agents are coming. Hiya, fellas.
It's him.
The anomaly.
Do we proceed?
Yes.
He is still.
Only human.